My name is Jessica, and I'm 49 years old. I've been married to my husband, Ethan, for 20 years. Since our son left for college in another state last year, I've had more free time. I decided to take a part-time job to help support our son's expenses. Before that, I was a stay-at-home mom, so getting back into the workforce was a big adjustment at first. But lately, I've been feeling more fulfilled, my opinions are valued at work, and I feel like I'm contributing again. Hey, Ethan, I said happily one evening, I just found out I'm getting a small raise. It feels nice to be recognized for my hard work. Ethan, who was watching TV, barely looked at me. Then, out of nowhere, he said something that made no sense. So, you're saying you can live on your own now? I looked at him, confused. What? Ethan turned toward me with a smirk, which immediately gave me a bad feeling. It's perfect timing. I've been meaning to tell you, I've got a new girlfriend. I don't need you anymore. I was stunned. He said it so casually, as if he'd just told me to pick up groceries, get the divorce papers and our marriage certificate from City Hall tomorrow. He added, still acting like it was no big deal. As his words sank in, I could feel myself shaking. Seeing my reaction, Ethan sneered, I'm still a man. Unlike you, you gave up on being a woman a long time ago. We haven't been close in ages, there's no point in staying married. I was angry and shocked by his rudeness. Yes, we hadn't been intimate in a long time, but it wasn't because I gave up on being a woman. Honestly, I just didn't feel attracted to a middle-aged man in his 50s with a bit of extra weight. Feeling a mix of anger and amusement, I started laughing. Oh, really? I said. You're the one who kept making excuses. You were too tired, too busy, or just didn't want to bother. And now suddenly you want to live as a man? That's hilarious. Ethan's smirk vanished, and he looked annoyed. What's so funny? Don't mess with me, old lady. Ethan started insulting me, using harsh, rude words. Then, leaning back with his arms crossed, he said, Ashley is so different. She's head over heels for me, always calling me the best boyfriend ever. And look at you, getting excited over a tiny raise. Pathetic. He kept boasting about Ashley, the woman he's been seeing behind my back, and made me feel small in comparison. Her name rang in my head. Ashley, Ashley, Ashley. Ethan proudly shared more about her. She's over a decade younger, in her mid-20s, works in nightlife, and is even pregnant with his child. I felt disgusted. How could he think it's fine to have a child with someone barely older than our son? Life should be about love, he said, sneering. Not with someone cold and dull like you, but with someone like Ashley, who's young, with fresh, beautiful skin. That's what makes spending money worthwhile. I realized that to him, love was something he could buy. So you're leaving me for a young girl who's after your money and doesn't mind having an affair with a married man, I replied, making him angry. It's not about money, he shouted, it's real love. Anyway, I need to marry Ashley as soon as possible to keep her happy, he added, so pack your things and get out. I was stunned, almost speechless. He only cared about himself and what he wanted. As I thought about it, though, the situation began to feel a little ridiculous. He hadn't used the word love with me in ages, and I could already guess how this would turn out. Eventually, he'd treat Ashley the same way he was treating me now, once the excitement wore off. Really, you're pathetic, Ethan sneered. I should have seen this before we got married. Looking back, I did all the housework and childcare on my own, while my husband never helped. All he did was criticize me, telling me what I was doing wrong, even though back then, it was just expected that I'd do it all. He never even showed appreciation, let alone love. And now, after all my hard work, he's tossing me aside for a younger woman. I couldn't believe he was thinking clearly, but he acted like my words were just jealousy. Well then, there's nothing more to say. We'll fill out the divorce papers on my next day off. Make sure you have everything ready. With that, he shut himself in his room. For the next few days, I couldn't sleep, and I cried in frustration. Outwardly, though, I pretended not to be bothered. Then, on his next day off, he actually brought the other woman to our house. Hello, Ethan's old wife. I'm here to help with the paperwork, she said, walking in confidently and sitting on the sofa. She introduced herself as Ashley. She had smooth skin and clearly knew she was attractive. Her heavy makeup and revealing clothes, like a dangerously low-cut top and a very short skirt, stood out, especially since I didn't even know where to look. But something in her behavior told me she didn't really love Ethan. I could tell she had a different goal in mind. I faced her calmly, already prepared for the divorce, but sensing something off about her attitude. Ashley, Did you start seeing Ethan knowing he's married? Calling me his old wife means you know where we each stand, right? She laughed confidently. I'm not stupid. Don't underestimate me. Old lady, you're the one getting dumped. I'm going to be Ethan's wife now. Simple as that. I smiled. Glad you said that so clearly. I recorded it, too. I held up the recorder, showing her I'd been recording our conversation. Her face changed, and she turned to Ethan, upset. Ethan, you said she wouldn't give us trouble. This isn't what we agreed on. Ethan tried to calm her down. Relax, Ashley, I've got it all planned. Don't worry. Their conversation was sickening to listen to. I couldn't hide my disgust. Then Ethan pulled out the divorce papers. Sign these, they include the conditions for alimony and splitting my pension. $30,000 to this old lady? That'll cut into my share, Ashley muttered without hesitation, clearly annoyed. It was obvious to me now, she was only after my husband's inheritance, which he was about to receive from his father. Well, Ashley, part of that money goes toward child support, my husband tried to explain, smiling at her like he thought her blunt attitude was cute. So it's like severance pay? Expensive, huh? She huffed. I could feel my anger boiling, but I kept calm and said, if you're willing to put these conditions in a notarized document, I'll accept them. Also, I'd like the payment in a lump sum. My husband, aware he was being recorded, quickly agreed. Are you happy now? I asked him, but Ashley, bored, just snapped. Hurry up with the papers. Old lady, be out by the end of the month, okay? I'm canceling my apartment lease. Once the document is ready, I'll sign the papers and leave, I replied calmly. Ashley grumbled, but finally left. Once the notarized document was finalized, my husband and I divorced. Then, as if she couldn't wait, Ashley showed up at the house to make sure I was leaving. Come on, hurry up and get out. I just submitted the marriage registration, now I'm Ethan's wife, and this lovely house is all mine, she said, grinning. I handed her the house keys, but before leaving, I asked, isn't Ethan about the same age as your parents? You called me old, but he's older than I am. Why did you choose him? Her answer was exactly what I'd expected. Ethan's a division manager at a top company, and this house is a stylish, newly renovated home near the station. I'll replace the furniture to my taste. He may be old and not handsome, but he promised to buy me whatever I want, so I'm set. She smirked as if mocking me. With a sigh, I said, I hope everything works out for you, and walked out of the home I'd lived in for so long. I moved to a dorm at a university, where I'd just been hired as a live-in dormitory manager, a rare role these days. Before that, I'd been working part-time at a company cafeteria. When I explained my situation and my wish to start a new life far away, my boss, who valued my work, helped me find an opportunity. A job had just opened up at a university dormitory due to an employee's retirement, and I gratefully accepted it. I was glad to have my nutritionist certification, which helped me get the position. The rent and utilities were really cheap, although I didn't have much free time to go out. It was a comfortable and enjoyable workplace. About 3 months into my new life, I got an unexpected phone call from my ex-husband. Mom isn't doing well. Can you help take care of her? He asked. I couldn't believe it. We're strangers now, I replied. Your new wife should be taking care of her. He tried to explain, saying, Ashley's pregnant, and my mom has dementia. She throws things, so it's dangerous. So, it's okay if she throws things at me? I thought. His request was absurd, and I flatly refused. Don't call me again. We have nothing to do with each other, I said firmly. Although my mother-in-law and I had been family for 20 years, we'd never been close. I'd just started living on my own, and I didn't have the time or resources to care for her. But my ex-husband didn't give up. Somehow, he found out where I lived and showed up with Ashley. If you won't help, at least return the money we paid you as consolation, he demanded. What a ridiculous request. I stood my ground. I don't owe you anything, and I'm not giving it back, I told him firmly. As I pushed him away, Ashley glared at me fiercely. You knew there was no inheritance and tricked us. We're drowning in debt, she screamed, throwing papers at me that scattered everywhere. I didn't trick anyone. You just assumed Ethan had money, I replied calmly, shrugging. When I handled my late father-in-law's estate, I found out he was deep in debt. Normally, we could have just refused the inheritance, but Ethan made a mistake. He canceled his father's phone plan and sold off some valuables before officially processing the inheritance. There's a law that says you can't refuse an inheritance if you've already used or sold any of the property. So now, the debt was all his, and Ashley's. Ethan just left all the inheritance paperwork to me, not listening to a thing I said. Ashley, you used that money to stay with him, right? I added. Ethan looked shocked. You should have told me, this is important, he argued. I shot back. I did try to tell you. You ignored me. Now you both need to take responsibility. Ashley looked pale and panicked. I didn't know about any of this, she protested. I never heard any of it. Really? I replied. If you hadn't cheated, you wouldn't have needed money for a mistress, and you could have just refused the inheritance. This situation is all because of your choices. Ethan groaned and backed away. I turned to Ashley. You knew he was married. You pursued him for his money, had his child, and even pushed me out. This is the life you wanted, isn't it? If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have wanted this old man at all, she snapped. I continued. Do you remember the notarized documents from our divorce? I got alimony, part of his pension, and child support, but I can also claim alimony directly from you. Ashley. What? $230,000 isn't enough for you? You're so greedy, she yelled, furious. I shook my head. I would have let it go if you'd just left me alone. But you came to me, demanding I take care of his mother and return the alimony. I'm done putting up with this nonsense. I told Ashley I had a recording of our divorce negotiations and was serious about claiming alimony. She panicked and ran off without looking back. As I watched her leave, I turned to Ethan, who was still standing there, looking stunned. How can she run like that in her last trimester? I asked. Is she even really pregnant? And where's all that love now? At my questions, Ethan gasped, realizing his mistake. I was wrong. Please come back, Jessica, he begged, looking older and defeated, but I refused. No way, please leave. My ex-husband broke down, but he didn't deserve any sympathy after all he'd done. Later, just as I suspected, Ashley vanished, leaving only a divorce notice behind. It turned out her pregnancy was a lie, too. My ex-husband was left to face his debts and take care of his mother alone, and over time, he became worn down by the stress. As for me, I discovered a new purpose as a dorm mother for kids around my son's age. People even started saying I looked younger lately. From now on, I'm committed to living honestly, without arrogance or schemes. To everyone, I'd say, be careful when considering a divorce.